Hello and welcome. I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well today. All right, so today I'm going to be looking at the case of Emanuela Orlandi, who has been coined as the missing Vatican Girl, and she went missing on June the 22nd, 1983. And with the recent series launch of the series, I thought I'd have a look at this, and having reviewed the series, I thought there is definitely something to look into here. All right, let me take a moment to focus and tune in. All right, so we know with Emanuela Orlandi's case, there's been a lot of controversy around whether the actual Vatican City was involved, or that Pope John Paul II was actually directly involved. So let's have a look at who was Emanuela Orlandi. Emanuela was born on January the 14th, 1968. That gives her the 1-14-5-6 and the 6-6 with the 12-3 outcome. Now, we know based on the documentary series that she was very musically orientated, a very studious student, and we would see that in the 4s and the 6 of her. And being the 12-3 outcome, very much in control of who she was, very feminine, very much a girl, and very innocent type person. And with those 6-6s, very much family orientated, very much church orientated, very much religion orientated, and a very well liked young person. And of course, when she went missing, caused huge controversy around the case. And there is speculation that the Vatican City, which is where the Roman Catholic Church is housed, that they were involved with a crime mob boss for other dealings. And there was rumors and speculations that the Vatican City were dealing with underage kids or children, and a sex scandal theory. Now, there are several theories around this case, and having watched the series, I decided just to focus pretty much on the Vatican, as well as Pope John Paul II, as well as the crime boss, who was Enrico de Pedis, and then as well as the infamous Vatican banker Paul Marcinkus, who actually was an American. So I'm just going to bring this slide up together with everyone involved from the Vatican City. And to my alarm, there is some serious pinging on Emmanuel's numbers, as well as the day of the incident, as well as pinging on Pope John Paul II and Vatican City. So on the day that Emanuela was kidnapped, or abducted, because I don't believe there was ever the intention for her to be released. She was being silenced, I believe, for the indiscretions of the priests in the Vatican City, and we do know Emanuela was living in the Vatican City. She was born in the Vatican City, which is an independent state. And on the day that the incident happened, we had the 6, the 22-4, and the 3, with the 10-1-3 and the 13-4 outcome. Now, that 13-4 outcome is not a good outcome on that day, which again highlights the fact that the Vatican, and I do believe the Vatican, as well as Pope John Paul II, had no intentions of releasing her at all. And because she was going to speak out about what was going on within the Vatican walls, and we know that in the documentary series, she had intimated or told her friend what was going on. So now if we look at that date, 6-22-4-3, we have those 3s there, and we see a reflection on the 3s on Pope John Paul II, and we see the 3s on the Vatican City. Now I can tell you now, this is not a coincidence at all. This is definitely not a coincidence. So if we look at the positive side, so if we look at the Vatican City with those double threes, that is all about community. It's about bringing people together in the word of Christianity, their religion. It's all about the community, people. And with the outcome, 7 is meant to be a holy number. But of course, we also know that 7 can also be a negative number as well, like all numbers. Okay. So on that day with that 13-4, there was definitely no intention to release Emanuela. Now, it is alleged in the series that the crime boss, Enrico, had arranged the kidnapping. So if we look at him, we have the 12-3 outcome of his date of birth with the direct link to Emanuela, 12-3, and the go-between between the crime boss and John Paul II. We also have Paul with the outcome 12-3. Now, all the three people directly involved with this case, as per the series, ping directly on them. So they ping directly Enrico, and Paul ping directly on Emmanuel with the 12-3. Now, what bugs me, and we'll get into the Pope's numbers and the Vatican numbers as well, but what really perturbs me about Paul, the Vatican banker, with those numbers, 555. Now, I suppose if we look at it from a positive point of view, 5 is about diplomacy, it's about the politics, it's about breaking boundaries, so he would be an international figure. However, when you look at the negative side of 5s, we're talking about abuse, we're talking about money, corruption, deception, deceit, and even drugs. Okay? And it's quite interesting that Enrico and Paul share 15-6. 15-6 is also about dirty old men. That 14-5 in Emmanuel is about older men, younger women. So I would say that would be her daily challenge or conflicts, that you would have these older men whistling at her or taunting her. And we see the same in Pope John Paul II, the 14-5, dirty old man. And with these, and I must say, and excuse me for jumping around a bit, but I'm just going with the flow. If you look at Pope John Paul's numbers, the 5s, the 3s, and the 8s. Now, I must tell you, and I'll be very frank, people with dominance of 5s, which he has, the dominance of 3s and 8s, stay clear of those people. They are manipulators, game players, abusers, deceptive, lying to the people, and very violent person. Okay, that's what we find in Pope John Paul II. Those, like if you had to give me his date of birth and you don't give me his name or anything, and you'd say you're considering me for employment, and I'd say, what type of job is he applying for? And the person would say, well, we want him to come be a priest in the Roman Catholic Church. I would start laughing. Okay, those 5s, those 3s in 8s, and even that 9. This is not a, how can I put it, a holy man by any means. And, you know, having looked at this case now, I had a very strange experience. Well, not strange experience, I'm a psychic after all. Let's just put it this way. I received a vision which I found strange at the time. Let's put it that way. And one morning I woke up the day before John Paul's death was announced. Okay, so the morning before Pope John Paul's death was announced, I had a vision, seeing him ascending into the middle layer, having passed. And I said to my partner at the time, the Pope has died. And 24 hours later, it was announced to the world. Now, I always find it strange because, I mean, to give you some background of myself, I was raised Roman Catholic, being Italian. I was raised Roman Catholic. I did the whole communion, confirmation, all that kind of thing. And my folks always said to us, you know, once you've done all of that, because it was a prerequisite to get married in the earlier days, the 80s and 90s. But since then, you know, my folks always said, do what you want to do. You've done what you had to do, but do what you want to do. And at the time, ironically, when I had the vision of Pope John Paul, you know, if you've watched my earlier videos, you would know that I worked in the TV and film ministry. And at the time, I was actually working on a gospel channel, not necessarily a Roman Catholic channel, but the current gospel channel in South Africa. And I always said that is my 3-year degree, because I worked on the channel for 3 years. But, you know, I just found it interesting but strange and peculiar that I would see a vision of Pope John Paul II. So it almost comes full circle for me when I see where we have this situation where an innocent young girl was being abused and manipulated by the Vatican and by cardinals within the Vatican, that this kind of thing was going on, which they obviously deny today, which I find very strange. But when you look at these numbers, Pope John Paul II, if you told me this guy was going to be a priest, I'd say, you sure he's not a criminal with those kind of numbers? So very disappointing in seeing, you know, those double threes, abuse, manipulation, the 14-5, dirty old man, young woman, or young girls, I should say, rather. And, you know, we see those double threes on the day that Emanuela went missing. We see the double threes in the Vatican, and very, very alarming. And on that June 22nd, 1983, we see the 10-1. That is about organization. That is the church enacting abuse and control on a young, defenseless 15-year-old girl who had been abused by cardinals and the Pope within the church, within the walls of the Vatican City. Okay? Now, I can confirm, based on the series, that the crime boss Enrico was directly involved. And if you look at Enrico and Paul's numbers, the top line, we've got the 5, 15, 6, and the 1. Paul has the 1, the 15, 6, and 5. These two criminals, or let's say the criminal reflects the so-called cardinal, and the cardinal reflects the actual criminal. So again, if you bring me Paul's details and you say, we're thinking of hiring him as an accountant or working with money, I would say he is a criminal with all those 5s, lots of 5s, deception, fraud, manipulation of money, wealth, lying. And we saw the same kind of numbers in the Alex Murdoch case. Lots of 5s, lots of deception, lots of fraud, abuse of money, abuse of power. And both those, Enrico and Paul, with an outcome 3, when you have males with an outcome 3, there's always a big tendency towards abuse and control. And we've seen in murder cases, the 3 pops up quite regularly. And that is all about abuse, control, taking power away from other people. And I find it completely disgusting. So we have Enrico and Paul with literally identical numbers, both criminals, with both the 12-3 outcome. And we see with Enrico with that 11-2, that is about breaking the law. That is about breaking the law. And unfortunately, Emanuela was caught up in let's say, an abuse case, which was being threatened to be exposed to the world, and the Vatican, with the head of the Vatican at the time, Pope John Paul, making a decision to get rid of her. Completely disgusting. Okay. Now, I don't want to go, you know, there's reports 10 days later she was actually taken to the Vatican. I didn't do much more in-depth research on this because based on her date of birth, the event where she was actually abducted, with the crime boss, with the Vatican banker, with Pope John Paul, they were all involved in this case and were fully aware of what was going on from day one. From day one. Completely disgusting. And unfortunately, Emanuela paid the ultimate price because of dirty, old, corrupt, deceptive pigs. And I received a message during the meditation that I was doing a day or so ago, and that Emmanuel is near the square. Okay, I believe she would have been buried within the Vatican City, and she would have been buried near the square, the main square. And that's the information I was being given. And what else can we say about these pigs? Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. This is just a short extra reading for the week. I just thought, let me have a look and see actually if the Vatican, the Pope, and his banker were actually involved in this. And there it is. Direct involvement completely. And I find it completely repugnant that they would portray a different image as to oppose what was going inside or happening within the Vatican City walls. And it makes sense now why so many years ago I received a vision when that Pope passed away. And I must say, when I said into the middle layer, I didn't see him ascend into heaven per se, but he was kind of in the midway. So that kind of makes sense now as well. So unfortunately, it is true, in my opinion, that the Vatican City, headed by Pope John Paul II and his Vatican banker Paul, were definitely involved in the abduction and murder of Emanuela Orlandi. Alright, so if you'd like to leave your comments, please leave your comments. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit that notification icon for new episodes. And I would just say stay safe and stay alert, and see you in the next one.